Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Gene Hackman's death was already heartbreaking, but the autopsy findings revealed something far more disturbing. Gene Hackman's final moments will bring tears to your eyes and leave you questioning everything. Was it just illness that took him, or did the haunted house or something even more sinister play a part in his fate as disturbing autopsy details come to light? The mystery only deepens from the moment Gene Hackman set foot in Santa Fe. Something about the place gripped him, an unshakable pull, a quiet whisper beneath the desert wind. It started with his film projects in the area, but soon the attraction grew into something deeper, something almost eerie. He and his wife Betsy Arakawa felt compelled to stay drawn to a house that seemed to call them. At first glance, it was nothing more than an aging structure in need of repair, but beneath its worn exterior, that there was an undeniable presence, an air of something watching, waiting. Hackman didn't shy away. He embraced the mystery, enlisting the local firm Studio Architectura to help him reshape the home. But as the walls were stripped and new foundations laid, it became clear this was no ordinary renovation. It had a kind of magic in it. Hackman himself said about the home. He bought the property because he liked the location, and then asked Santa Fe architects Harry Deal and Stephen Samuelson from Studio Architectura to help turn the house into the home. He had imagined the house was nothing more than a decaying shell, a forgotten 1950s block building abandoned to the elements. Its walls cracked, its spirit hollow. Architect Stephen Samuelson didn't mince words. It was horrible, he admitted. But the land, it was perfect, the foundations at exactly where it should, as if it belonged there. Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, weren't looking for a typical Pueblo-style home. They wanted something different, something vast, open, filled with light. But as they began to transform the house, it became clear that this was no ordinary renovation. The first step was drastic. Nearly 90% of the roof was ripped away, as if peeling back layers of a forgotten past, with the ceiling lifted to towering heights, some reaching 20 ft. The space breathed again, but that was only the beginning. Walls came crashing down, their secrets spilling into the dust where there had once been small confining rooms. A grand hall emerged, anchored by massive tree trunk columns. The air itself seemed to shift, growing warmer, more alive. Hackman envisioned a place where space flowed freely, where rooms connected in a way that felt both expansive and intimate. It wanted a great hall feeling, he said, not a maze of closed-off rooms. And so the house took shape, a blend of styles that refused to follow any single tradition. Part Pueblo, part colonial New Mexico, part Spanish, Baroque. It was not precise, not polished. By the time the transformation was complete, the house no longer felt abandoned. It pulsed with energy, with music from Hackman's state-of-the-art stereo system echoing through the high ceilings. The heavy wooden doors creaked in the wind, and at night shadows moved differently across the walls, as if the house itself had been awakened. Cozy, yet massive, primitive, yet refined. Hackman had owned other homes before, but this one was unlike any of them. His Monteo house had been formal, controlled, but this place had a presence. Gene Hackman approached the design of his home like a filmmaker, crafting an illusion. He didn't want the interior to look freshly built. He wanted it to feel as if it had aged naturally over decades, collecting layers of history and character. The house is new, he explained, but we tried to make it look 100 years old or more. He insisted on subtle imperfections, water stains on the plaster as if from old leaks, darkened patches that mimicked years of smoke exposure. The plasterers were skeptical at first, struggling to understand why anyone would want to make a new house look worn and aged. But Hackman was persistent, and the result was stunning. The walls gradually shifted in color, creating depth and shaping spaces without disrupting the open flow of the house in the entrance hall. For example, teal faded into tan, forming a seamless transition. Between the outdoors and indoors, the same philosophy applied to the ceiling beams. Brand new wood wasn't enough, it had to look like it had seen time. Each beam was reshaped, burned, beaten with chains, repainted and then stripped back over and over until it carried the patina of age. Hackman also wanted stamped tin ceilings in certain rooms, but none of the available patterns felt right. Instead, he brought in a local artisan to create a custom design that matched his vision. Exactly. Hackman wasn't just overseeing the process, he was deeply involved in every aspect. He laid out the floor plan for the architects, handpicked the kitchen details, and even joined in on the demolition work as a skilled painter. He often mixed colors himself, showing the workers the precise shades he wanted. Every corner of the house bore his personal touch, transforming it into something more than a home, something almost cinematic, a place where time itself seemed to look like mosaics. This home was not meant for endless entertaining or hosting large gatherings. It was a retreat, a place where Hackman could escape for a few months each year when he wasn't on set. The life slowed down on some days. If the mood struck, he would load his pickup truck with oil paints and a canvas, driving into the mountains to paint. Other times he would simply sink into a chair in the living room reading or listening to music, while the desert outside shifted in color and the clouds drifted over the mountains. Hackman had no way of knowing that the home he poured his heart into would one day become the site of his own mysterious death, leaving many to wonder, was the house always haunted? On February 26, 2025, a maintenance worker arrived at their secluded home, unaware that he was about to uncover a scene of profound tragedy and unsettling mystery. The worker knocked, but there was no answer. At first he thought the couple might be away, but something felt wrong. He walked around checking the doors and windows. That's when he noticed the front door was slightly open, hesitant but concerned. He stepped inside the house, felt abandoned as he moved further in. He called out their names, but there was no response. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold through a doorway. He spotted a body lying motionless on the floor. It was Gene Hackman. His cane and glasses were nearby, as if he had fallen. Suddenly the worker immediately backed away, his hands trembling as he reached for his phone to call 911. Police and emergency responders arrived quickly the moment they stepped inside. They knew something was terribly wrong in the bathroom. Near a countertop lay Betsy Arakawa, a space heater tipped over beside her. There were pills scattered nearby, as if she had been reaching for them in distress. The scene raised immediate questions. Had she collapsed due to an accident? Or was something else at play? Moving through, the home officers discovered something even more unsettling. A German shepherd was found dead, curled up inside a bathroom closet. The air in the house was stale, as if time had stood still for days. 2 other dogs were still alive, but appeared weak and frightened, their eyes darting around nervously in a separate area of the house. Specifically, the mudroom authorities discovered the body of Gene Hackman. A cane and a pair of glasses lay nearby, as if he had been interrupted mid-action, perhaps attempting to rise or reach out. The positioning hinted at a sudden collapse, devoid of struggle. Investigators noted that there were nuvious wounds on either the Hackman or Arakawa. There were no signs of break-in or violence. The front door being slightly open was the only thing out of place, as detectives surveyed the scene. One thing became clear: this had not happened overnight. The bodies showed signs of decomposition, meaning they had been there for several days before being found. The house, once a peaceful retreat, had become a place of mystery and death. Why had no one called for help? Why was the dog locked away? What had truly happened in those final moments? The absence of external trauma on both bodies led investigators to consider possibilities such as accidental poisoning or environmental factors. Carbon monoxide poisoning was initially suspected. However, tests for carbon monoxide and other foreign elements returned negative. The scattered prescription pills introduced the possibility of a medical emergency or accidental overdose. The truth behind Gene Hackman's death lies within the chilling pages of his autopsy report, its findings so haunting and heartbreaking that they could bring tears to your eyes. But before revealing those grim details, let's first find what was happening in Hackman's final days. Only then can you decide whether the autopsy report tells the full story, or if there's something far more unsettling hidden beneath the surface in the months leading up to their tragic and mysterious deaths. Gene Hackman's health had been steadily declining, according to close friends of Hackman, the 95-year-old. Once known for his routine bike rides and active lifestyle, had become increasingly homebound friends. Recalled that he had given up cycling through the neighborhood about a year ago, and in his final months, his health was visibly slipping. Daniel and Barbara Lenahan, longtime friends of Hackman, and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, shared their memories of the couple's final days. Barbara reflected on the changes she had seen in Hackman. He quit riding his bike through the neighborhood. His health was really slipping in the last couple of months. Despite these struggles, Arakawa remained a devoted wife, doing all she could to keep him engaged and active. Aron, another close family friend, echoed this sentiment, saying she was still trying to keep him as active and engaged and as healthy as possible. He recalled how Hackman would do puzzles and yoga via Zoom every day, a testament to Arakawa's efforts to maintain some normalcy in his life. Barbara added that Arakawa herself was in excellent health. She was so fit. Friends described Hackman and Arakawa as an inseparable pair, deeply devoted to each other. Even in their final days, Aaron reflected on their bond. They were one of the tightest couples I've seen. They seemed like real-life partners, really close to each other. They were both incredibly kind, and they were reserved, but they were real, and a lot of fun. Barbara recalled how proud Hackman was of Arakawa. Not just as his wife, Butas, an accomplished musician, Jean was as proud of Betsy as she was of him. She said, remembering how their home reflected their passions. She'd been a concert pianist over at their house. She'd a special building, a studio. Half of it was her grand piano, and the other half was Jean's art studio. However, this account of Hackman's declining health was contradicted by his daughter, Leslie Ann, who insisted her father had been in good shape before his passing. Speaking to TMZ, she said he liked to do Pilates and yoga, and he was continuing to do that several times a week. So he was in good health. Meanwhile, Ashman, a friend of Hackman since the late 1990s, through their shared interest in the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, express deep regret about not staying in closer touch. You don't think about it, but your friend is there and you figure they're all right. He admitted, I lament the fact that we didn't spend more time together. Ku, a housekeeper for Arakawa's mother, told the Daily Mail that Arakawa used to check in on her own 91-year-old mother, Yoshi, feaster regularly as the latter is battling dementia. However, she added, Betsy hadn't called her mother in months. She usually called everyone or 2 months. The housekeeper added, last time she called was October. We were thinking, what happened? Ku said the family became worried over Arakawa's alleged lack of communication. Now prepare yourself for the chilling autopsy, revelations that will haunt you long after you've heard them. Authorities have finally released the long-awaited autopsy findings for legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa, shedding light on the heartbreaking circumstances surrounding their deaths at a press conference. Dr. Heather Gerald, chief medical examiner for New Mexico, detailed the couple's final days. Reporters pressed her for answers, particularly about the week-long gap between their deaths, a tragic period that now seems even more haunting. Dr. Gerald revealed a devastating possibility given Hackman's advanced Alzheimer's. The 95-year-old actor may have never even realized that his beloved wife had passed away. His autopsy revealed something unsettling. His stomach was empty, yet he showed no signs of dehydration. This means that in the final days of his life he was still able to drink, but he likely wasn't eating. Whether this was due to confusion, grief, or simply his body shutting down remains unknown. What is certain is that he was already in a very poor state of health. His heart, weakened by age and disease, finally gave out. He was found alone in the same house where his wife had died days earlier. Betsy Arakawa's cause of death was confirmed as high-risk pulmonary syndrome, a rare but highly deadly disease. PIRS has no cure and no direct treatment. Once it takes hold, it moves fast. People with HIV virus infections can initially feel flu-like symptoms for roughly 3 to 6 days and then start to have fluid in and around their lungs. At that point, a person can die very quickly within 24-48 hours, roughly speaking. Without medical treatment, Gerald said, It's not uncommon to find someone down on the floor as part of a terminal collapse, so to speak. And that may very well have been what happened. And that may very well have been what happened. How did she contract it? Investigators discovered rodent activity in structures around the couple's property. Her virus spreads through rodent urine and droppings, infecting people who unknowingly breathe in contaminated air. Dr. Aaron Phipps, a public health expert, revealed the terrifying reality. The HAV virus strain in the Southwest has a 38%-50% fatality rate in Arakawa case. The infection hits suddenly and without medical treatment. Death can occur within just 24-48 hours. She was last seen alive on February 11th. Sometime after that, she likely collapsed alone and unable to call for help, while Hackman likely died around Feb 18, when the last activity was detected on his pacemaker. For an entire week after her death, Hackman remained inside that house, unaware that his wife was lying dead nearby. By the time authorities found him, he was gone too. But Hackman did not die from HAV virus. The virus does not spread between humans, and his autopsy confirmed he had not been infected. Instead, his weak heart finally gave out. Dr. Gerald stated he had significant heart disease, and I think ultimately that's what resulted in his death. HAV virus infections are extremely rare. New Mexico reported only 7 cases in 2024, but they are deadly. Of 136 confirmed infections in New Mexico over the past 50 years, 42% were fatal. Authorities warned that people often don't realize their homes are at risk. Dr. Phipps explained avoiding contact with rodenturine or feces, especially in enclosed, poorly ventilated spaces, is key to preventing infection. G. Hackman and Betsy Arakawa spent over 3 decades together, deeply devoted to one another. But in the end, fate tore them apart in the most tragic way. Betsy likely died suddenly and alone. Gene, lost in the fog of Alzheimer's, spent his final days in a home filled with silence, possibly waiting for a wife who was already gone. It's a story that leaves behind more sorrow than answers. How do you feel about this devastating autopsy report? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching.